Death of the author. It's probably a phrase you have heard before. It's based off a French essay arguing that as soon as a work, art, writing, craft, has left the creator's hands, they no longer have a say in it. That from that moment on, no matter their intentions, how their work is received is all on the, well, audience. How completely incompetent. This work will not be left to the whims of the masses. And this author is certainly not dead.
What was that? What was that? What was that? His mind screamed at him as he ran through the inverse place, frantically changing dials on the radio. He had to make sure he had just the right pitch for every streetlight, moving the dials almost on instinct. One wrong move and the thing that was chasing him would no longer be a problem as he plunged out of the blue light and into the waiting arms of the silhouette creatures he knew to be around every corner. He risked a glance behind him. The thing wasn't closer, but it wasn't getting any further away either. It didn't move like the creatures. There wasn't the slow, then fast walking, the flickering like a film. It just seemed to phase its way, almost at the same speed, always at the same distance. It would appear on top of a building, then in the middle of the road, then peering out of a window. Then it appeared under a blue light. The boy turned back to what he was doing. He could not get distracted. Not only did he have to keep the lights on in front of him, he had to be careful where he was going. Otherwise, he might trap himself. There were a lot of places with no street lights, and he can only go the one way. A flickering light parallel to his. A light on the other side of the street that turned on and off and on in sync with the light above him. He turned to look fully at this out-of-place light that followed him as he continued to run. The thing was inside the light, not running, walking. Moving from one light to the other, keeping up with him like they were on a stroll. It turned to look at him and it waved at him. The boy was so shocked that he almost forgot to turn on the light in front of him. His hand slipped on the dial and he had to abruptly stop so he didn't fall out of the light. Air ripping down his throat, tearing at his lungs. Now that he had stopped, he doesn't think he can start again. He had only looked away for only a second, just trying to control his breath. The light was still on beside him. Teeth, starkly clear, every bump and ridge visible. The boy tried to back away. The thing grabbed his wrist, stopping him. The boy wasn't able to move. The mouth around the teeth grew wider. Then it pulled. He only just managed to catch his balance, the blue light sliding over him as he fell out of it. He felt himself scream, then heard it, loud and sudden, his ears ringing with the onslaught of the unexpected return of sound. The thing's grip tightened as the boy desperately tried to get back under the light. Visions of mashing teeth dripping with blood invaded the boy's mind. "I'm not going to hurt you, you know," a voice said, closer to his ear. "I have no reason to. Yet." The thing pulled away, letting go of his wrist. The boy breathed in, then out, hearing the air rush from his lungs. The thing was right in front of him, stuttering, glitching, flickering, a white shadow contrasting against the black void that now surrounded them. Slowly, or all at once, parts of its body would come into focus, stark detail that was almost hard to look at. The boy couldn't look away. The shock of being pulled out of the blue light, hearing in this place, and the thing itself startled the boy into silence. "You're so talkative when you chat with the statues. You can hear me, can't you?" One of its ears became visible, then disappeared. The boy forced himself to look away from the figure. Were the creatures here? Was it stopping them? All he saw was black, pitch black void. He glanced behind him. Maybe the blue light was still there. Maybe he could run again. His legs burned at the idea. Nothing. There was nothing there. What are you so afraid of? I said I'm not going to hurt you, didn't I? Don't want her to listen in, do we? It didn't say it like a question, but a truth that it and the boy shared. Her? The boy thought of a lonely girl on a pier, one of the only places he hasn't extensively explored in this place, or the place he was in before. Oh, don't worry. You have never met her. The thing started walking back and forth. A sound like squeaking metal followed its footsteps. Honestly, for a being that isn't allowed to wander, she sure tries to know all of my business. The boy was having trouble resisting the urge to take out his notebook and write everything this thing was saying down. He didn't think he would like being recorded in any way. He focused on trying to remember everything it said in exactly the way it said it. Being? What's the being? What do you mean by wander? The figure's eyes became visible, clear, the bottoms of them crinkling, like it was smiling. Wandering in both senses of the word. She cannot go anywhere. She is trapped where she is. And also her mind. No dreams or desires or goals. No pondering or contemplating abstractions. Feelings. Thus is the curse of a god. A god. The boy had no idea what the thing was talking about. He had thought that maybe it was a person, or at the very least had been one, that he could learn from it. Now the boy knew the truth. It was crazy. In any case, she isn't important right now. You are. The boy took a step back. The thing took a step forward, its shoes becoming visible as it did, disappearing when it stepped. Of course, I don't mean you're an important person in the grand scheme of things, but you're getting close. Isn't that amazing? The thing paused like it was waiting for a response. When none came, it continued. But of course, you don't want to be important. You just want to do something important, or go on an adventure. Whichever is easier, right? The boy thought about running again. Maybe the blue light was still there, and he just couldn't see it. The figure grabbed his arm. It felt like static electricity. The boy started turning the dials on the radio again, fast, trying to get to any channel to turn on any of the streetlights that might still be around him. Low buzz, white noise, loud. A light came on. Orange. The figure started to laugh. The laugh mixed in with the static, the low buzz, and the white noise. The boy frantically turned dials and realized that the white noise wasn't coming from the radio. The orange light flickered around him and the thing, seeming to come from nowhere. No, not nowhere. A point behind the figure. And not flickering, moving, going from one side to the other, then reappearing, like it was rotating. Clever! A portable radio. The advancements of technology is really something, isn't it? The white noise got quieter. Quiet enough that if he didn't know it was there, he doesn't think he would have noticed it at all. But there's something else, isn't there? The thing ran its hands down his arm and grabbed his wrist, lifting his hand. His left hand. Ah, so you have met the lost. It pulled his wrist towards itself, reaching its other hand in his pocket. The boy ripped his arm away and took a couple steps back. The figure didn't seem to notice as it started to examine the bag it now held in its hands. The boy stared as the figure lifted the bag up, as if to look at it in non-existent better light. Its figures one by one becoming visible and poking and pulling at the bag. It then brought the bag closer to its face and opened it. Then quickly tossed it back to the boy. The boy barely caught it. I see. The orange light started to rotate faster. That's what she meant. The thing started to walk away from the boy, right into the light. The boy stood there, watching the thing get smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the light. Then reality caught up to him, fast. He was outside the light and the thing that was keeping the creatures away was gone. He tried the dials on his radio again, his hands shaking and slipping on the buttons. The radio wasn't making any sound. He shook it, hearing the rattling of the pieces moving slightly. So he could still hear. He looked closer at the radio. It didn't seem to be broken, but its hands were shaking so much it was all he could do not to drop it. The bones. He had to use the bones. He didn't know if the bones worked outside the light, but he had to try. He held the bones up and waited for the dizziness that felt like closing your eyes and waking up, to find himself sitting on a bench or standing under an orange light. None of that happened. He was still where he was, in the blackness, the void. Only he could still see. His hands, at least, the radio, his feet, the bones, all still illuminated by a steady, dim, orange glow. It was the only way. He ran.
Not for the department. Just need to talk. I don't understand this assignment. I didn't want to say this in front of Meri, but maybe the techs don't know what they're talking about with this one. A town that's been around since the 1800s started as a fish import town and later become a tourist destination, and it had no activity up until just a few months ago? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, I know that because of our line of work, my idea of normal isn't exactly realistic, but this isn't supposed to be a normal town. That's why we're here. It doesn't seem like Meri can find anything either. She's been texting back reports. Well, reports is giving them a little too much credit. However, they are giving me an adequate idea of this town. There's nothing here, and the department is wasting their time. What are we even supposed to be looking for here? I know that there's a missing person. The text said that the missing person report triggered a reading. But at this point, I have to assume it's a coincidence. That they got a false reading. It's not really our job, but the most we could do is start looking for this. Damn it. The light again. Why does it keep flickering like that? Meri?
The audience walked down the one-way road, the ocean at their back. The arrows on the ground pointed towards them. All the signs faced the other way. The trees are bare and the wind is cold. Their breath comes out in clouds. Frost clings to the sparse grass and dirt. Once they reach the highway, one step away from being able to see the town's welcome sign, they were once again at the ocean. The once bare trees had leaves on them, purples and reds and oranges, just about ready to fall off. They again began their slow way up the road and from the ocean. Sometimes they would see a blue light out among all the shining black lights. Sometimes a boy would run along underneath them, dexterously turning them off and on or writing notes. Sometimes a different boy holding a recorder would walk down the street beside them, always towards the ocean, always saying he wasn't lost. Sometimes they would see the other people that roam this place. They murmur only snippets of phrases. The child sees into the park. The woman knits under a tree. The man picks flowers by the beach. They're all stories they have witnessed, all stories that have now ended, and now their only purpose is gone. Most of the time they don't see an orange light, spinning, rotating, searching. A voice doesn't stand in the light moving, watching, directing. It doesn't watch as people walked around the town, observing everyone over and over and over, finding just the right one to add to the story. Most of its chosen don't even notice the blue flickering light. There's a girl at a bookstore. No, she works at the bookstore. There's a girl. No, that's the name it gave. She has a name. They all had names. They were people. They are people. Their stories are their own. They didn't know they were being watched. Why did the voice want them to be watched? What was the point of the story? There isn't an orange light. There was a girl on the pier. The girl would sing to the wind. The lost would gather to hear her. Dozens of them. They always left the front seat for them. They knew she was their favorite. The orange light didn't start rotating faster. There used to be a girl at the pier. She used to sing. They have reached the highway a few times now. the falling leaves reattaching themselves, turning green, shrinking into buds, turning into flowers, snow on the ground, snow falling, falling leaves, leaves back on the trees, over and over and over. An orange light doesn't watch them. The orange light never watches them. There is no girl at the pier. There is no singing on the wind. They stop by a bench. The leaves of the tree are slowly filtering down. They land on the head, shoulders, and book of the old woman sitting there. They look at the building beside. A bookstore right on the corner of the street. Stairs lead up to the front door. Inside, the lights are a soft glow. Every time someone opens the door, they can feel the slight brush of warm air coming from inside. All the books are neatly placed on the shelves. Every aspect of the bookstore welcomes you inside. They stay outside. They watch the sun slowly rise over the horizon, washing the street in yellow. They watch morning walkers lazily decide to go inside. They watch the girl sigh as she opens the door. They watch as she waves to the person behind the cash register. They watch as she disappears into the back room, then reappear and start organizing the books. They watch for the majority of the day. An orange light doesn't turn on above them. "You're very fond of testing my patience," a voice doesn't say behind them. "I am watching," they say. "You are watching a story that has already been told," the voice doesn't say. Less and less people go into the bookstore. Soon there's no one inside besides the two workers. "What interests you so much here?" it didn't say with confusion. "It's a beginning." No one was singing. It wasn't their favorite story. The girl was dusting some shelves in front of the window that faced them. "A beginning." The voice didn't come closer. "I guess it depends on your perspective." It didn't glance at the old woman sitting on the bench beside them. It didn't grin as a low buzzing sound started coming from the rustling leaves. More and more of them falling on the old woman. She impatiently swept them away from her book. "But a beginning isn't in of itself interesting." The voice didn't stand in front of them, blocking their view. It didn't absent-mindedly brush its hair away from its eyes. It didn't roll its sleeves up. It didn't place its hands on its hips, glancing at the window. The girl watched the leaves put on a show just for her. "Why do you find this beginning so fascinating?" The voice didn't ask. "It's important. Important enough to watch again and again and again." A single leaf filtered down and landed on the woman's book. She admired how well it fit in the book pages and decided to leave it there as she turned a page. "Beginnings are always the most watched part," they say. The girl runs out of the bookshop. Her coworker looks up from his book when he hears the bell above the door ring. He puts away his book quickly and goes after her, his shock showing plainly on his face. The rustling leaves stop as she approaches the statue, the wind barely strong enough to blow a few strands of her hair. The voice doesn't walk around the girl, hands behind its back. It doesn't grin at her from over her shoulder. "Are you okay?" her coworker asks. "You flew out of there like someone was chasing you." The girl stared at the statue. The old woman rolls her eyes. "A person quietly reading is surely not this interesting," the woman on the bench says as she turns a page of her book. "You're right. Why would you be interesting at all?" the voice doesn't say. The girl turned to her coworker, eyes wide. I thought I saw a book that got left on the bench, and I wanted to grab it before the wind blew it away." The wind started to blow harder. But I guess I was wrong." Her coworker paused before speaking. "Okay, well, we shouldn't really leave the store unattended, and it's really cold out here." Her coworker started walking back inside, glancing behind him to make sure she was following. "It's not cold if you dress appropriately for it," the old woman says, wrapping her cardigan more tightly around her shoulders. The voice didn't sit on the steps leading up to the bookstore, head in its hands. "So that was it? She didn't even walk under the light." They turned to watch the girl again through the window and caught her surprised expression as she once again looks at the old woman. The girl glanced at her coworker, her shoulders slumping. She left the window to do some other task in the bookshop. The old woman picked the leaf that had been in between the pages of her book and let it twirl with the wind. The voice didn't leave, its coming and going not announced by a rotating orange light. Ugh, why are you still here? The beginning is over, and had a very disappointing end, if I might add. The voice finally didn't ask. It's not over. The girl came out of the bookstore, her coworker following close behind. He locked the door and waved as he walked to his car and drove away. The girl still stood on the top of the steps of the bookstore. Now is something going to happen? The voice didn't say impatiently. They watched the girl slowly make her way down the steps, her skirt slowly swaying in the wind. She sat across the woman. The rustling in the leaves started again. The light above the old woman started to flicker. The girl rushed towards the woman and was gone. The voice didn't stand up and stretch. Oh, I see. The beginning indeed. Well, after you. The voice didn't bow towards the light. They don't move. The voice's smile doesn't leave its face. Oh, so now that we're getting to the good part, you want to leave? A boy stands up from behind the bench the old woman sits on, his hand leaving the dials he had just been turning. He walks around the bench being careful not to leave the blue light. Did she go in? He asks the old woman, his excitement barely being contained. She rolls her eyes. Yes, she went in. Oh, perfect! I can't believe it worked. I mean, I was pretty sure it was going to work, otherwise I wouldn't have done it, but first try? This is amazing! The voice's smile didn't grow impossibly wide. Never mind, it didn't say. Looks like the good part is right here. The voice doesn't start laughing. They strain to listen to the next words the voice says. Well, don't want her walking out and getting eaten. I have no idea why that's so many people's first instinct when they see the creatures. Then he was gone. They were an audience. A perfect audience. They watched. They remembered. They did not have favorites. They only watched the story. They were not supposed to feel anything about it. Not happiness, sadness. A perfect audience. They started to shake. The voice didn't turn to them, a smile not still plastered on its face. They looked to the voice, the orange light behind it rotating faster and faster. The voice stared at her, tilting its head. Rage. We feel rage.
Hello, Noah. I gotta say, I'm so glad we got a more modern place this time. I hate recording into that tape recorder. No offense or anything, but it's kind of blocky and looks kind of, goofy. You pull it off well, it's a fashion accessory, but I don't know. I like using my phone better. Easier to make it look like a phone call, and I can't make people believe that it's completely natural like you can. Anyway, official documentation starts now. We are in... I'm from a college paper, and I just want to know if there are any spooky fishing stories you know about. I'm here to research local legends, and... not even a ghost. Not for the department. Noah, I don't know about this. Not only is this town eerily normal, I don't even think people know about the missing person case. A few people recognize the name and notice he hadn't been around for a while, but other than that, I don't know. It's not like people can lie to me, but that doesn't mean they were telling the truth. It's just whatever they believe. And while the human mind is very far from perfect, and you know how it is. In any case, it's not like we can pack up and leave. Best idea I can come up with is that we actually try and find...
I heard you're looking to find Arlo Thorne. She was alone. Completely alone. Her throat burned and she rubbed it once again, trying to soothe it. It was nowhere near as painful as a leg had been. Pain so sharp and sudden she would lose her breath mid-song and... well, that wasn't a problem anymore. Her throat burned again for a different reason. Her vision went blurry. Even if she got out of here, she would never be able to sing again. She had made absolutely sure of that. She pulled her knees closer to her chest. Alone. The creatures had stopped coming to the shore. There used to be so many, and now days would pass without seeing a single one. She looked outside the bars of her wooden cage. There was a bench across the water that faced her. It was directed at the pier, not the ocean. A front row seat to her. Someone used to watch her there. She only saw them a few times, but they must have come often. Often enough for that thing to show up. For that thing to use her as leverage? A promise? A threat? It had called the watching person an audience. She guesses that made sense. They had been her audience for a long time. But so had the creatures. To think of those things as an audience sent a shudder down her spine. No, they were human-eating monsters. They weren't looking for a show. They were looking for their next meal. Then why weren't they here now? She leaned her head back. The boredom was the worst part. The endless thinking. Nothing to break it up. Not the noticeable movement of days. Not eating. Not even sleep. Not anymore. About the time she realized she didn't need to eat, she realized she didn't need to sleep either, and now her body just couldn't. Now even the pain was gone. Her one last thing that actually changed. Now it was just silence. Black and white and gray. A flicker to her side. She turned her head, expecting one of the creatures to be back after such a long absence. It wasn't one of the creatures. One of the streetlights on the pier across from her had turned off. She strained her eyes, trying to see it better. That pier had been around longer than the one she was on. It was wide and strong enough for cars to drive on. Not that that happened often. It just ended at the ocean. She stood up, so wobbly from how easily she was able to do that. She leaned over the rail, trying to get a better look. The lights never turned off. Turned blue, yes, very rarely, but off? The lack of the shining black light turned her stomach. It was change. It was something new. Something was moving slowly down the road. It came into view more clearly as it went under the now off streetlight. The black silhouette contrasting against the white night. It looks like one of the creatures, in that all the creatures had been blurry silhouettes and didn't need the blue light. This one, though, it was different. It didn't glitch as it walked, didn't speed up and then slow down, moving forward and back like a corrupted VHS tape. The silhouette was slow, but it was steady, precise, solid. As it approached the next streetlight, it too flickered and died. The light behind the silhouette flickered back on. The girl watched this strange new silhouette as it made its slow way under 3 more lights like this. It was getting closer to the ocean. Would it turn around? Stop at the edge? Or... A strong wind blew from the ocean. She instinctively turned her head away from the stinging salt spray. There was a bench that faced her. One that now was always empty. One that at this moment had an audience sitting on it, their head turned to the other pier. Her chest tightened, her mind rapidly putting pieces together, things she had seen, others that she had heard, all leading to one conclusion. If the audience was here, there was something worth watching. The girl quickly looked back to the silhouette, now only a dozen or so steps away from the fence that separated them from the ocean. Something worth watching. The silhouette stopped and put something down on a picnic table near it. It was small, barely bigger than their hand. Then they ran, jumping over the low fence. The girl tried to yell. Even if there had been sound in this place, her damaged throat would have stopped her. This silhouette had been a person. A real person. Not like the creatures or the figure or even the audience. Real. A person that could be outside the blue light. And they had just jumped into the cold, white ocean. They fell. When they hit the ocean, the water rose and swallowed the silhouette. Something worth watching. The girl didn't want to look away from the ocean. Didn't want to miss when the person resurfaced. The fall wasn't that far. They had to be fine. Something worth watching. She risked a glance at the bench that faced her. Empty. Her knees grew weak and she collapsed to the ground. She struggled to breathe. Had she just witnessed someone die? A person? When was the last time she had seen a real person? An image of writing on black paper with white lead came to her mind. It really had been that long. A light passed over her. Orange. She knelt looking through the bars of the cage. A figure. The figure. A white silhouette followed by a flickering orange light. Not flickering. From this angle, she was now able to see that the light was rotating from a point that she couldn't see, hidden behind the buildings. It was a strong light, much stronger than it would seem. She had looked right at that light, but with how far it reached, she didn't know how she was still able to see. The figure walked down the same path the person had, only going a little faster. The rotating orange light was illuminating more and more of the road and buildings and ocean. Except the light would stop at a point in the ocean, just a little after the pier she was on ended, like it was shining on a wall. She looked back just in time to see the figure pick up the object the person had left on the table. The orange light started to rotate faster and faster. Then the orange light and the figure were gone, between one blink and the next. She lay down on the floor looking up at the black stars and wished not for the first time that she could just fall asleep.
I knew a killer with a sharp tooth grin. You look twice, yeah, do you win? But he ain't worried, mama taught him how to pray.
She lay in her bed long after she was supposed to be asleep. What was going on with that boy? With what happened to her, the statue moving, the other dimension, the creatures, trillions of possibilities now seemed feasible to her. She debated on whether he might be a ghost. The disappearing and reappearing made sense, as well as how shocked he was when she had told him the date. But then there was the matter with the hoodie. She had gotten it out of the dryer when she had got home, folding it neatly and putting it inside her work bag so she wouldn't forget it tomorrow. Could ghosts give you pieces of clothing? Compared to everything else, it didn't seem that out there. And it had been cold when she had put it on. Like the boy didn't produce any body heat at all. But he had saved her before that. He had grabbed her wrists and pulled her back from the light. Surely a ghost couldn't do that. She shook her head. Maybe a ghost could. Everything she knew about ghosts was what everyone else knew about ghosts. Top of the list being that they had never been proven to exist. So what if everything else was wrong too? Okay, so what was the main thing that defined a ghost as a ghost? He would need to be dead. A shudder passed through her body. Dead. He would have to be dead. She sat up in her bed and looked at the time on her phone. 11:58 p.m. She fell back onto the bed. She was going to be so tired at work tomorrow. She picked her phone back up and typed in the name of the town, then deaths. She narrowed down the search from before 1999, as that seemed to be the last date the boy remembered. She narrowed it down further by looking only for people between the ages of 15 and 18. She wasn't surprised to not find that many. One that had died in a car accident and the other in hospital. Neither even close to looking like the boy. She tried to expand her search, looking for missing persons, bigger date range, bigger age range. Nothing. 12:34 a.m. How else could someone get information on someone she barely knew? School records. He had to have gone to school, right? She didn't think that there was something she could get from an internet search, though. Would the library have stuff like that? Then another thought. What if she could find someone that remembered him? Maybe he was a runaway. Maybe she should go to the police. 1:16 a.m. She plugged her phone back in and put it back on the nightstand. Go to the library? The police? With what time? Whatever was going on with this boy was his business. She hadn't wanted anything to do with it. If it hadn't been for that stupid hoodie, she would have already forgotten about the moving statue, the blue light, and the creatures. Just like the boy said, most people do. After tomorrow, she would never have to think about it again. It would become a distant memory, a dream, something that never happened. 1:46 a.m. She picked up her phone again and looked up when the library closed tomorrow.
Nothing is on top of the roof. No streetlight, no orange light. We don't like to be observed. We are an audience. Stories aren't about us. We aren't a part of it. We only watch. It watches too. We stand for a long time. We know it's getting bored. We stand for a long time. We're getting restless. We stand still. We need to watch. We need to know what happened. A boy under blue light. A boy under blue light that only the girl and the boy can see. It was day. The street lights were not on. The blue light flickered around him. He talked to a statue of an old woman reading a book. The girl watches but could not hear. She watched for a long time. We stand not moving. We can go no further. The boy had finished his conversation. The boy had stood up, patted the woman's head, and stepped into the light, disappearing like he had stepped behind a door. The girl had gone home then. She had felt eyes on her the whole way. The boy under the blue light had not followed her. We moved forward. Time free for us to walk again. It grins. There's nothing on the roof. She moves down the street towards her home. We follow, watching, listening, remembering. It can watch us. It's the only one that can.
Flickering Streetlight is written, edited, and performed by Carmen Knight, and is produced by Lantern Zora. Intro and outro music is by Alexander Kordov. Logo is by Raccoon with a Spoon. Noah Ashford is voiced by Your Boy Trashy. Meri Marigold is voiced by YourFavoriteJegg. Everybody Thinks You're the One to Get Away is used with permission by Blue Jay Walker. All other sounds are either recorded by Carmen Knight or are from freesounds.org under Creative Commons. For updates, follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, or YouTube under Lantern Zora, Tumblr under Blue Flickering Streetlight, Twitch and TikTok under UltearLight, or visit our website, lanternzora.com. This is also where you'll find transcripts of episodes. All links and show notes. Thank you for listening. $104, $116, $116, $112, $115, $58, $47, $47, $119, $119, $119, $46, $108, $97, $110, $116, $101, $114, $110, $115, $97, $117, $114, $97, $46, $99, $111, $109, $47, 48, 49, 48, 56, 51, 52, 56, 53, 56, 57, 50, 49, 32, 80, 97, 115, 115, 119, 111, 114, 100, 32, 72, 105, 110, 116, 58, 32, 78, 117, 109, 98, 101, 114, 115,